All right, everybody. Oh, there you go. Sorry. All right, so we're gonna end up starting with the Ertz mock Regents review. All right, and we're gonna start with Earth's motions. Number one, the map below shows the location, diameter, in kilometers of four meteorite impact craters, A, B, C, and D, found in the United States. So A, B, C, and D are all meteor impact craters, something to keep in mind. So the question says, what is the approximate latitude and longitude for the largest crater, right? And so they told us A, B, C, and D, right? They're all impact craters, and we need to know the approximate latitude and longitude for the largest one. So between A, B, C, and D, which one has the largest diameter? And the one that has the largest is A. All right. So now I'm going to look at the longitude and latitude. All right. If you take a look at our note sheet real quick, we can see right here latitude lines, right? They run across, right? Latitude lines run across. All right. And longitude lines run, right, up and down. All right. And latitude lines measures north and south. Longitude lines measures east and west. That's also in your note sheet. So when I know this, and I'm gonna get back to the question, I'm going to measure what my latitude is first. All right. So my latitude that is first is A. And when I'm looking, right, notice how I'm also curving my lines, right? I'm measuring the latitude because my latitude lines right here are also giving me a curve. So the fact that my latitude lines has to be bigger than 40 degrees north, right? My latitude has to be bigger than 40 degrees north, right? That's the first thing. So we can cross out which options? A, we can cross out, and B, we can cross out. So what else do I know about A? A is longitude is between, when I go up, right? A is between 100 degrees west and 120 degrees west. All right. And so when I'm looking between C and D, I can cross out D because my longitude, right? My longitude is what's measured degrees east and west. And my latitude is measured degrees north and south. And that's why the correct answer is C. Number two, the path of a Foucault pendulum provides evidence that the Earth blink, right? So what is a Foucault pendulum is very interesting because if you look in question 5, right, the device is right here. This is a Foucault pendulum. And what's interesting about the Foucault pendulum is as it swings back and forth, it appears to us that it is changing directions as it's swinging back and forth, right? It's changing directions as it swings back and forth. So this is evidence that the Earth rotates on its axis, right? This is evidence that the Earth rotates, not revolves. All right, rotates is basically you standing up and doing a spin. That is a rotation. You going around something is revolution. All right, number three. Number three says in New York State, the highest altitude of Polaris will be observed at what? So one of the first thing when they're asking for the highest, when they're asking for the altitude of Polaris, right? We know Polaris is the North Star, and what's important is that this is going to be some number in degrees, right? So an example could be 23 degrees, right? Or 47 degrees, all right? We're looking for the angle, right? The angle that we will see the star Polaris. All right. Now, the fact that it says in New York State, right? All of these locations are different New York cities. Where do I find all of these? Let's take a look at reference tables. So let's swing over to the reference tables. And you'll notice all of these cities, which I circled in blue, they are all 1, 2, 3, 4 New York cities that's located on page 3 of the reference tables. All right, page 3 of the reference tables. All right. So why is this important? Because one thing that we know, the altitude of Polaris is equal to your latitude. The altitude of Polaris is equal to your latitude. So that means that if I find Polaris wherever I'm located is at a 23-degree angle, then that means my latitude is also going to be 23 degrees north. All right. We have to remember, we do have to remember the fact that we could only see, I'll put it right here, we can only see Polaris if we're at or above the equator. You cannot see Polaris if you're below the equator, all right? So now for us to find the highest latitude, the highest altitude of Polaris of these 4 cities, I need to find the latitude. So Kingston has a latitude, let's say 41.9 degrees north, right? Utica, I'm just doing an estimate, looks to be about 43 degrees north. Old Forge, right, because it's more than halfway, right? That dash represents a halfway point, is about 43 point, let's say 6 degrees north. And Massena is basically very close to 45, so let's give it an estimate, 44.9 degrees north. All right. Well, we just said that the altitude of Polaris is equal to your latitude. So if we're looking for the city that has the highest altitude of Polaris, then that means we're looking for the city that has the highest latitude. And right? And so the altitude of Polaris for Massena would just be 44.9 degrees. All right. So we got to remember latitude is degrees north. Altitude of Polaris is just degrees. Make sure that we remember that. And the correct answer is Massena, right? As the highest latitude, so therefore it would be the highest altitude of Polaris. And that would be choice A. All right, number 4, it says the diagram below shows an observer on Earth measuring the altitude of Polaris. What is the latitude of this observer? Well, remember what we just said. We just said the altitude of Polaris is going to be equal to your latitude, right? The number is going to be equal to your latitude, all right? So that means when I am looking, sorry, what is the latitude of observer? When you're measuring an angle, you always measure from the horizon to Polaris. From the horizon to Polaris. All right. So that means from the horizon to Polaris means this is the number that matters. The 66.5 degrees. So that means we see Polaris at a 66.5 degrees angle. So what is my latitude? Because I can only see Polaris at and above the equator. My latitude is 66.5 degrees north. That is my latitude. All right, remember latitude would include the degrees north. Altitude of Polaris would just be degrees, which would be choice A. Number 5, it says a diagram below represents a Foucault's pendulum swinging freely for 8 hours. The pendulum appears to change its direction of swing because of the Earth's what? We just discussed this earlier, right? The Foucault pendulum is a device that appears to swing, to change direction as it's swinging back and forth, right? And so this device provides evidence of the Earth's rotation, not revolution. All right, the Earth's rotation. So the Foucault pendulum provides evidence of the Earth's rotation. All right, so it says basic answers to the following question on the map below. The ISO lines of the map show the increases in elevation that has occurred since the end of the Ice Age in this part of North America. A and B are 2 points on ISO lines. Several towns within the area are indicated. All right. So it says, what is the approximate latitude and longitude of Fort George? So one thing I want you to pay attention to, once again, the fact that I see that my latitude lines, all right, my latitude lines are slightly curved, I'm going to follow that same type of curve, right? Because if you're just looking, right, let's say if you go to Fort George and you're looking just, hey, I'm just going to look directly to the right, right? You'll notice that by doing so, you cross a latitude line, right? So when your map is showing that the latitude lines are curved, you want to follow that as well, okay? So just by looking here, it gives me an estimate, right? It gives me an estimate. I want to say maybe, let's say like 53 degrees north of my latitude for Fort George. Now take a look what I'm looking for the longitude, and this is exactly why we have to follow the longitude lines, right? If I scroll down just like this directly, all right, and I know my line wasn't accurate, so I'm going to do it again. If I was to scroll down directly, right, you'll see that Fort George looks to be between 80 degrees and 90 degrees west. However, haven't you noticed that I ended up crossing this longitude line here, right? You're not supposed to be crossing your given longitude and latitude lines, right, when measuring. So that's why, as you can see in the red, the longitude lines are slanted a little to the right. So that's why I'm going to follow that same pattern. And you'll notice it's between 70 degrees west and 80 degrees west. So if I was to do an estimate, it looks to be about 77 degrees west, right? 77 degrees west. And when I look, the answer that has 53 degrees north is 77 degrees west. Which one's the closest? And it looks to be choice C. All right. Once again, your latitude measures degrees north and south, and your longitude right here measures degrees east and west. All right, number 7 says basic answers to the following question on the diagram below, which represents Earth in its orbit around the sun. The position of Earth on the first day of each season is labeled A, B, C, and D. So keep in mind, there are not 4 Earths. It's just showing 4 different positions of the Earth, all right? So it says, which event is caused by Earth's revolution? Okay. Which one of these statements is caused by Earth's revolution? Okay. Well, when I look, right, and this is something more of a memorization where you look at your note sheet, all right, there are 3 pieces of evidence, right, for the Earth's rotation. And one of the evidence is the rising and setting of the sun, right, and the rising and setting of other objects, the Foucault pendulum, right? And how it appears, keyword appears, to change its paths as it swings back and forth. And then the third one is the Coriolis effect, right? Which represents the deflection of objects, right? The way that winds, our global winds are being bent, right? Now, what are the pieces of evidence for the Earth's revolutions? The fact that we have seasons and we see different stars, constellations. All right. So when we're talking about constellations, what are constellations? Constellations are just groups of different stars, right? It's groups of stars. And these groups make a pattern, right? For example, and then I know I'm not drawing accurate ones, right? But sometimes these stars can make different patterns in the sky, right? And what's interesting is that we will see different constellations as the Earth goes around the sun, right? So depending where you're located, one month you may see Cancer, another month you may see the constellation Aries, right? And once again, I know that my star patterns is not accurate. All right. But I just want to give you, just to let you know that the Earth's revolution, evidence of that is the fact that we see different groups of stars called constellations that we see in the night sky throughout the year. 1 year, 1 month, you may see Aries. Another month, you may see Cancer. Another month, you may see Capricorn, right? Another month, you may see Virgo. These are all pieces of evidence for the Earth's revolution. All right, so number 8 says, basic answers to the following questions on the passage and photograph below and on your knowledge of Earth science. The photograph shows a portion of the Patagonia marble caves found in South America, right? Let's say, for example, you're someone that's like, okay, hey, I'm reading the background information. I don't want to read the paragraph. Let me just look at the question, right? And the question says the map below shows 4 locations of South America labeled A, B, C, and D. And they're saying right here, all right, the Patagonian marble caves of South America are found on the shores of General Carrera Lake at locations of 46.5 degrees south and 72 degrees west. Which lettered point on the map best represents the locations of the Patagonia marble caves? Now, for this question, I did edit it because that first sentence, right, was actually the first sentence found here. All right. And sometimes on the regions, right, you see how I edited here, the regions may not have that. So it's important for you to read these paragraphs because sometimes they're going to end up giving you information that'll help to answer the questions, right? So the fact that they're telling us the coordinate for the Patagonia marble caves is 46.5 degrees south and 72 degrees west. All right. And so I'm just going to look. 46 point, let me zoom in. All right. 46.5 degrees. Let me move up a little bit more. Sorry. 46.5 degrees south. It looks to be 46.5. Looks to be somewhere maybe around here. All right. Halfway between 40 and 50 degrees south, and 72 degrees west has to be greater than 70, less than 80, looks to be somewhere right around here. And the letter that we see is C. All right. So even though it's choice B, the correct answer is C. I know that's just very confusing. All right. So, but choice letter C is the correct answer. That's all that we have. I believe that's it. Yep. That's all that we have for today. Have a wonderful, blessed day. Until next time, make sure to like and subscribe.